a look at some of this video. This is what we know. ABC News agreeing to pay $15 million toward Donald Trump's presidential library to settle a defamation lawsuit over anchor George Stephanopoulos' inaccurate on-air assertion that the president-elect had been found civilly liable for raping the writer E. Jean Carroll. We covered that defamation case widely here on Live Now. Now, as part of the settlement made public yesterday, ABC News posted an editor's note to its website expressing regret over Stephanopoulos' statements. They were made during a March 10th segment on his This Week program, ABC's Sunday morning talk show. The network will also pay $1 million in legal fees to Trump's attorney's law firm. Now, the settlement agreement describes ABC's presidential library payment as a quote-unquote charitable contribution, with the money earmarked for a nonprofit organization that is being established in connection with the yet-to-be-built library. So, wanted to get this in here. We do want to discuss this even further with our friend and legal analyst, Randy Zelin. Randy joining us from New York to talk about this. Randy, good to see you here. It doesn't seem like historically President-elect Trump's, wishes and desires to have this payment be set aside and designated for a future Trump presidential library, the plans of which have not been reported, the location of which has not been reported. We don't even know if there was going to be a library until this settlement yesterday here. What did you make of the classification of the payment of the settlement here? It doesn't go right in Trump's pockets. That seems contrary to everything we know about Donald Trump, does it not?
No, because once again, the president-elect is two steps of everyone ahead of everyone else, for one very simple reason, which is given the fact that E. Jean Carroll has a rather large judgment against the president-elect. If he got $1 directly into his pocket, E. Jean Carroll would immediately intercept the money before it got into the president-elect's pocket and say, no, that money belongs to me. Now that money does not go to her. That money goes to the presidential library. It was an absolutely brilliant move by the president-elect. It equally gave ABC a graceful way out because they could earmark it and say that it is a charitable contribution. So it was a good time and a good deal had by all.
So I find this so interesting from just a media perspective. We also know that this settlement was somewhat preempted because depositions in this suit were going to be taking place next week. This was signed Friday. It was the same day a Florida federal judge ordered that both Trump and Stephanopoulos sit for separate depositions in the case next week. Obviously, a settlement means sworn testimony is no longer required here. Just from a journalistic news perspective, let's talk about the defamation claim at issue in this segment on March 10th on This Week. That's the program George Stephanopoulos hosts. He had on Congresswoman Nancy Mace, and he essentially asked her, I'm paraphrasing here, how can you support a candidate, i.e. Donald Trump, who was found civilly liable for rape in the E. Jean Carroll case? That is not what Judge Lewis Kaplan found. Trump was found to be civilly liable for sexual abuse in the E. Jean Carroll case here. What is the difference? Clearly, it cost ABC News $15 million with that error. Help us make sense of the difference, Randy.
Sure. Well, let's start with there is nothing like sworn testimony. There is nothing like having to sit for a deposition and be unpeeled like an onion to get people suddenly on board with the idea of a settlement. When we talk about defamation, there are a couple of rather simple elements. Number one, was the statement true or false? Well, question, was the former president found liable of rape? Answer, no. Was the former president ever found guilty of rape? Answer, no. Therefore, to say that the former president was found liable or found guilty of rape, that is false. ABC has a history of not exactly getting along with or playing it straight with the former president. So now we start talking about, well, it's one thing to say something that's false. When you're talking about a public figure, was it done in reckless disregard of the truth? Was it done with malice? ABC is not Fox, where there is a history of we play it down the middle. In fact, sometimes we could be accused of bending over backwards for the former president. So no, there was no malice there. There was no reckless disregard. We made a mistake. ABC can't get away with that. So I think ABC recognizing that the overwhelming majority of this country voted the former president back into office, they were going to have a hell of a difficult time finding jurors that they could feel comfortable would not slam them, particularly, again, given the past and given their historical treatment of the former president. And then, of course, on the matter of an opinion, the way we deal with that is we look at the alleged false statement and say, can that statement be proven to be objectively true or false? Well, again, was the president found liable of rape? No. Was the president-elect found liable or guilty of rape? Answer, no. Again, so it can be proven objectively to be proven true or false. And then finally, does it go to the commission of a crime? Does it go to something so morally abhorrent to really that people would hate you? Well, being accused falsely of rape is falsely being accused of a crime. It certainly is something that's reprehensible. So the former president checked off all the boxes.
Yeah, I mean, just to me, you know, obviously George Stephanopoulos is no spring chicken. He hosts one of the highest rated programs in the morning on network television here. This is a very costly mistake. Is he exposed just personally, or does the network take the fall for it?
I think the network takes the fall for it. They look at his ratings.
Yeah. I mean, but could they have just said this was an honest mistake? Could they have just said that and not had to pay?
They again, if it were you, if it were me, if it were anybody who has a history of playing it down the middle with the former president or favoring the former president, yes, I made a mistake. I spoke too quickly and I reversed course immediately and apologized immediately. With ABC's history, ABC could not get away with that. The number of times that it was repeated, you're really now wandering into that territory of reckless disregard of, I don't give a crap what the truth is. It just sounds good to say that. So I think ABC did a smart thing, and they probably look at, again, their historical ratings with Mr. Stephanopoulos and maybe a bump in the ratings going forward with the mea culpa and say, okay, not losing any sponsors, or maybe we'll get a bump in the ratings. So it'll pay for itself. But again, it was a good deal. And the definition of a good deal is you're a little happy, you're a little unhappy. I think the former president was probably a little unhappy because he would have loved to have kept going. Yeah. And I'm sure ABC was not happy paying out $16 million, but a little happy that they got out gracefully.
But Randy, you know, I know, the viewers know well that President-elect Trump has sued news organizations before over unfavorable coverage. CNN, the New York Times, most recently CBS, particularly 60 Minutes. I think that was $1 billion defamation claim. And he's come up short. Not in this instance, which I find so interesting. He got a victory here against a news organization. He's been railing against them for, you know, over a decade. And this one came through here because it was so black and white, to your point, right?
It was black and white. ABC's history of not playing it down the middle with the former president. I think timing, the fact that we had an election, a little over a month ago, where it, by all accounts, was a landslide. President-elect riding in this wave of just people saying, okay, he's the guy for the job. I think ABC recognized that Mr. Stephanopoulos would have been eviscerated in a deposition. It would have been painful for him to sit through questions where you cannot say, I refuse to answer the question unless it goes to a privilege or it is just so harassing. Other than that, you got to answer every question. and he would be barbecued on the fact that with his credentials, his experience, his wealth of knowledge, come on, you knew he wasn't found liable for rape. And how many times did you say it? It would have been so uncomfortable and so painful. It is no surprise from a timing standpoint that ABC decided to pull the plug before the deposition.
Yeah, and just going back to some of those prior lawsuits that Trump has filed against news organizations, I mean, most of them have not even made it to the deposition discovery phase here, like this was about to do this week. So this was very fast moving. Randy Zelin, as always, can't thank you enough. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All right, in the meantime here, I had to get that on. I know we covered it yesterday when it broke, but wanted to get some analysis on it as well here. Just a little bit more on this story. According to the Associated Press, Trump sued ABC and Stephanopoulos in federal court in Miami days after the network aired the segment in which Stephanopoulos repeatedly misstated the verdicts in Carroll's 2 civil lawsuits against Trump. Remember, neither verdict involved a finding of rape as defined under New York law. In the first of the lawsuits to go to trial, Trump was found liable last year of sexually abusing and defaming Carroll, and a jury ordered him to pay her $5 million. So wanted to make sure we got that in there as well. In the meantime here, let's take a quick commercial break.